Hello everyone, welcome to the new episode of Show Me Your Build. Now, before we start I want to preface something, and that's the fact that I'm going to be changing how Show Me Your Build works. The way I used to make it work would be to just do a normal, a full month waiting for submissions, and then after the month ended I would just work on a video for it. Now, as you can see, because of how late this video is, literally a week late, I struggle with finding any kind of motivation to start working on that kind of video now. So I decided to actually change the formula for a formula that would be a bit easier for me to work on. And that would be to make it a live stream instead. Kind of like what I do with Sages whenever Sages decides to work on one. It's kind of very sporadic because of his schedule, so... Yeah, I plan on making it maybe an hour long, maybe 2 hour long, depending on how many submissions I get. It would be the first Sunday of every month, towards 6 p.m. At least that's what I'm guessing, because that's like the best time zone for a good amount of my viewer base, I feel like. Maybe I could start it earlier, it really depends. Sunday is a day I'm free, which is kind of why I want to do this. I won't be able to just laze around and just not want to work on shit once I get back to school, which if you've been on my Discord, you know I'm going back to school around August. So being able to transfer this as a stream series would make it easier. And no, it would not cut down on my studies, because what I study is electromechanic. Electromechanic is not exactly the kind of thing I can do at home. So, using my Sunday on this is actually not bad at all. Now, another thing I want to point out with the way I want to do this as a live stream is that I would actually make this... How can I put it? I would be in a Discord chat, and that way I'll be able to just have the person that I'm actually reviewing the build of be able to talk to me and tell me the kind of thing as such as what are the party members, what are the type of support you can actually provide to the unit. What kind of team is it going to be in? Is it going to be a flyer emblem team? Is it going to be a cavalry emblem team? Is it a mixed emblem team? That kind of stuff. Which makes it a bit easier for me to actually help the person. And if you're too shy for me to actually... Well, for you to actually, talk to me. Well, it's fine. You can just type. I'll read out loud what you're saying. So... it's easier that way, because one of the biggest problem YouTube has is that it has a large amount of delay whenever you are on stream. If I'm on Twitch, the delay is less than 5 seconds. That's just how small the delay is. If I'm on YouTube, the delay is more around 30-40 seconds. I don't want to just ask something, wait 30 to 40 seconds, and then actually continue. So, this is a good way to get around it. Another thing, the lovely folks at Unit Builder decided it was a great idea to be able to customize heart icons. So I cannot use this now to actually validate a screenshot. So if you want to have a valid screenshot, you have to take a screenshot as the character you want me to showcase is talking. So the icon at the top right, it says unit talking, or whatever the fuck it says, I don't even remember, but it changes as the person is talking. So this is going to be the only way I can actually make sure this is the unit you actually want to showcase. And with the long intro out of the way, let's get to it. We have a 16 unit roster to go through, so Let's get to work, shall we? Otherwise, I'm just going to have this, and then on top of this, the refine and the new banner to work on, and I don't want to work myself to death, so better to make it work now. Alright, I had to find my notes. First off is from the Sunbug, this is a speed plus Soleil, and he or she says, my favorite unit, because she's just that awesome. The build you see is kinda gimmicky, but I run different builds on her depending on what I want her to do at the moment. Weapon, Brave Sword, Slaying Edge, and all the refines, Fire Sweep Sword, Noontime for the special, Noontime, Moonbow, Luna, A for Glimmer, Dragon Fang, and Blazing Wind. Life and Death, Darting Blow, Distant Counter for A skills, Drag Back, Escape Route, Vantage, Desperation, Chill Speed, and Nullsea Disrupt for the B skill, and Savage Blow 2, not even 3, Drive Speed, Drive Res, Threaten Res, and Threaten Death. One thing I have to say with this set is the speed from Speed Def 2 is kind of wasted. If you really want to go for a stat thing, I would say Attack Def 2 would be better. Or you could just run Flashing Blade, and then you're actually a lot more consistent on player phase at least. Nullsea Disrupt is fantastic to deal with Veronica, that type of character, so I mean, this build is pretty decent. Other than that, it's really just the seal that needs to be changed, and Savage Blow is a bit strange here. Really doesn't help you all that much. But other than this, it just feels about right. It's kind of hard to change anything here. If you feel like you're using her primarily as a player phase unit, Flashing Blade is better. If you're using her only as an enemy phase unit, or here and there as a player phase unit, but mostly enemy phase, I would say switch from Moonbow to Luna, because then you can take a hit back, and then you proc Luna. So you at least have that going for you. Though no follow-up will definitely be a really important option to make that work as well as you can make it work. But yeah, not much else to say here. Moving on to Spooky and his attack plus Flora. Let me just try to find this. It's a bit annoying because I have like 16 description for units and I have to find the right place, but attack plus S support with Felicia. Wait. With that Flora all just now I'm gonna post. Attack plus S support with Felicia. One of the most entertaining builds I have, made for one-shotting. Flora just spams Iceberg after taking the first hit. She's pretty standalone as is, but can perform better with support. I do use Legendary Azura. Some say close counter is counterproductive, but she's already winning against DC users with no A slot on her. She cannot double otherwise to proc Iceberg on player phase. With her high res, she can tank blue mages and most of the time kill them on retaliation. Her triple smoke complements this more. I genuinely feel like something you could do with this type of set is just, instead of Iceberg, run Glacies, because then it becomes 3 cooldown, and then you take a hit, and you proc it instantly the second you're in Special Spiral. But at the same time, it's a bit shaky, because it's hard to get in the Special Spiral in the first place. However, if you have a unit such as Veloria that you combo into her, you can actually run Veloria's weapon and support them both together. So then suddenly Flora gets 2 charge on turn 1, which basically allows you to just instantly have Glacies more or less ready. You take a hit and you proc it, which means you can actually run Attack Def Bond as a seal skill. Attack Def Bond with Def Tactic actually pushes your defense to 36. So, 34. Brain, what the fuck? Which is decent. It's not perfect, obviously, but it's still worth mentioning. It gives you extra attack as well, so for that one unit that you'd actually struggle getting the kill on, well, you have this. So yeah, not much else to say. It's a fairly good set overall. Iceberg is still pretty decent. It's definitely more consistent overall. So not much else to say. Quicken Pulse is a bit strange though. Though, yeah, like I said, it makes it easier to just proc. It's the same logic as what I'm using with Veloria and Glacies. Though Glacies limits her to enemy phase and Iceberg gives her a better player phase, so there's that. So, yeah. Moving on to Azarias' Death plus Priscilla. Once I actually find it, Jesus. Finally finished this plus 10 Priscilla, using her in AR for pain and good magic damage, when Def plus for better all-around bulk. Well, that's very similar to my Lukas, except less speed and more... actually, less attack for more speed, rather. Chill attack is there because I couldn't find a place for it on the rest of my team. But she's been quite reliable thus far. Yeah, that sounds about right. Attack speed solo would probably be better than attack def solo on her, just because her speed is so low. And also because she already has Dazzling Staff, so the defense does not help nearly as much. So attack speed solo would be better to get those doubles. And you actually don't get to the point where you're overkill on speed, even with own calves anyway. You just get to just about the right spot for it. The defense is nice, but I guess you're using attack def solo as a more defensive approach. You're not planning on using her in battle, in which case def rest solo would probably do you better. Yeah, it's really a case of def rest solo if you want to mostly tank. If you want like mostly damage, attack speed solo would be better. Attack def solo is kind of just a mixed bag. It works, just not ideally. I would also say that while Savage Blow is a decent option, I would consider using Ploys, because chills are cool and all, but you struggle to actually target the right unit with them. So if you chill a unit that's in the back, the chill is useless. I know I've been saying this a lot, but that's the biggest weakness of chill skills and why I barely ever use them. The only time I use them is because, well, I'm using Rid. So if I get one unit debuffed and then I hit that unit that's debuffed, everyone's debuffed because of attack smoke. And then my enemy phase becomes so much better that I get to a point where I can just solo everything. But it's not really the case with Priscilla, is it? So Ploys would definitely be a lot better. It's also better if, to use Ploy, since you can, than units such as Rid, because the thing is, Rid has a decent res stat but can't really Ploy reliably. Priscilla is a 37 res, that's very reliable to Ploy, and you are light blessed, so in other words, you're probably using her with hair on light weeks. 42 res is more than enough, let's just put it that way. So, yeah. The rest looks fine. Restore to get rid of that panic is really, really, really nice. Can't say anything wrong about these. Moving on to Suave's Attack Plus Legendary Lucina, which is essentially the best way to build her, really. Outside of the C skill and Seal skill, but everything else looks about right. I don't... Actually, let's first read what he says. This is my legendary Lucina, aka what happened when blue is stacked on a legendary banner. This attack plus formerly res by his beauty hits like a truck thanks to future vision and link skill shenanigans, easily breaking into 67 to 71 attack depending on what she's facing, not to mention 39 to 43 defense, and negating enemy double, giving her more bulk than you'd think. Even attack wave is her safety net, so while it's not always useful, it can come in handy in a pinch. She can also usually take enough punishment to get Aether off to heal back up. I'm not 100% on what seal I should use, since the go-to Heavy Blade, Flashing Blade, and Attack Death Bond seals are glued onto other units, so I could use some recommendation. Attack Death Bond would be terrible on her anyway, since she's meant to be a unit that moves around a lot. Edit, I've opened up Flashing Blade seal, so it's glued onto her now. Her most common teammates have been Eliwood and Fa, since they work as an amazing trio as well. I don't know about Eliwood, but I can definitely see... Oh, wow, sorry, I'm very tired. But I can definitely see Fa really being useful, since you can just swap into her to get out of danger if danger actually is coming. Outside of, you know, other green units, you should be able to take hits pretty well. Flashing Blade is obviously the best seal, and I'm glad that you moved that around for her, because that actually helps her a lot when it comes down to getting Aether out. Sturdy Impact is... you use it more for the stat than the second effect. You will struggle to not kill. Let's just put it that way. If with 71 attack you don't kill something, it's probably something you're not meant to fight. And by something you're not meant to fight, I mean like Surtur, that kind of stuff. So, eh. But still, the 10 defense is what really helps here. The 10 defense helps her bulk tremendously and also allows you to run attack res link a lot more consistently. I don't have much bad to say about this set, if only that even attack wave feels very worthless here. No offense, but that just feels like a waste. That just feels like a goddamn waste. Then again, when it comes down to C-scale for Lucina, there's not really that many options. Trying to think. No, not really. Because I guess Threaten would be ideal, but even then, it's kind of just, it depends. It depends on how you use her. So yeah, no, not much else to say about this. This is pretty decent. Just even attack wave, that's a bit iffy. Moving on to Center of Sinners Stahl. It's been a while since I posted a hero, so this is my Stahl Speed Plus. Wanted him to go Nyom, but I plan on changing his A skill since my only issue with Stahl is his attack stat. It doesn't break 60 attack with buffs. Don't really know what to give, so Fury happened to be my cheapest choice. The team I run him with is a Crom, Frederick, and a third unit third unit is Lissa with attacks tactic and rest tactic. Since speed tactic is still in the 5-star pool or on a legionary unit. Frederick has double drive def and Crom has spur def res with attack def link. So first off, Barrier Blade. It can work, but I will say one thing, and that's the fact that your team is, how can I put it? There is quite a few armored units that can absolutely wall you, just because you don't get to double them. Such as Legendary Hector and to some extent also Surtur, especially Surtur in fact. Those units will cause you problems, so if you're using a team with just Stahl, Lissa, Frederick, and Crom, I would definitely suggest going to the Panther's Blade. But I guess that's really up to you at that point. That said, other than this, I would say Renewal is a bit awkward. If you're going to be running something like Renewal, I would definitely suggest running Mystic Boost instead. And instead of Fury, I would actually say, well, if you're using Penter's Blade, Mirror Stance. Mirror Stance would be fantastic here because you get some attack still, and you get Res, which is the stat that you're actually struggling with. So then you just end up being fairly bulky, do a good chunk of damage, and while your speed is a bit less, you're at 30. You're at 37. That said, if you feel like your speed is really that bad, you could just replace Drive Death on Frederick for on Cav. And then suddenly you're at 43 speed, which makes it a lot better overall. This also means that instead of Drive Res on Stahl, you'd rather use Attack Tactic, because that way Frederick gets the attack, as well as Lisa and Corrin. Just thought I'd point that out because that way the buff distribution is a lot better. Because the unit that needs the speed the most right now is Stahl, if you want it to be a lot better. If you really want to keep the Barrier Blade, however, I don't know how I'd approach that exactly. I guess, like I said, Mystic Boost because he's meant to be a tank. But the A skill is definitely a bit awkward. Fury will actually destroy him just because he's a tank unit. A tank unit that loses all of his HP is a dead tank. It's like running Fury on Surtur. You're not going to go far with that boy. So I guess Sturdy Stance, or to some extent Mirror Stance. Mirror Stance would probably be better since it's the lowest out of Death or Res, but at the same time, Sturdy Stance is better in the sense that melee units are the biggest problem that you have right now. And dealing with Surtur, being able to enemy phase him is actually definitely welcomed. So I guess that's an option. Other than that, there's not much to say. Maybe you run Bonfire so it's more consistently used. But yeah, no, other than that, there's not much else I can say. It's pretty decent. Moving on to Mercury's Berkut, and he says, where is it? I may have fucked up. Okay. Oh boy. I need to find a comment. There you go. Finally finished my plus 10 Berkut completely. Usually run Berkut slants, but I also have Vanguard for heavy physical damage enemies. Teammates are alternated between Rid, Green, Olwen, both Reinhardt and Veronica depending on the map. Okay. So 42 res with Berkut's Lance, and I guess Odd Death Wave is there to actually even things up and making his death 45. Yeah, no, that does work pretty well. Trying to think what I was thinking about that set when I picked it. Oh yeah. You're using a full Horse team, but you're using a wave skill. Probably not a good idea. Because you can just run 245 cav on your team, and there you go. You are buffed in defense and resistance at the same time. And the other dude is also buff in def res. So it just feels kind of pointless to run a def wave to me. Other than that, it seems decent. Berkut is one of those units that's a bit awkward, and the fact that he's probably not going to get crime healed is eh. A lot of people have been throwing shade about that and just being like, oh, it sucks, now base Berkut is never going to be good. And I'm like, base Berkut would not want that weapon whatsoever. That weapon is terrible. It does not complement with his stat line at all. 24 res with DC, oh boy! Remember base Ryoma? Man, he's so relevant in the meta nowadays. Especially if he hurts all of the people around him by 20 to actually make DC work. Yeah, it's a dumb one. It's definitely a dumb one. But yeah, other than this, it's honestly fairly solid. It's pretty hard to actually improve. It comes down to just changing the seal to close defense whenever it feels like it in Vanguard. Other than that, it's pretty decent. If you run 45 cav, however, it might be better to go def refine with Berkut's Lance. It depends, though. It really depends on the situation. Because if you have 45 cav, you're not at the point where it's 45, 42 anymore. You're at the point where it's 45, 48 now. So if you move the res into defense, it becomes 49, 44, which is a bit less even. However, at the end of the day, defense is a lot more important than res, and you have distant defense when it comes down to mages. So yes, it does also count for archers, but archers are nowhere near as prevalent as mages nowadays. So yeah, that way distant defense kind of covered the res to a point where it's 50 res most of the time, except against dragons. And dragons are always a iffy choice. So, it comes down to the situation, I suppose. But yeah, no, other than that, there's not much else to say. Moving on to mission equals above all's Effie, who is Res Plus, and he says, need to go back to my archives to actually find it. My FA is plus 10 now, she is Res plus Speed minus as you can tell, and she has a lot of different skills. She has all the fighters except for Vengeful, so Bold, Special and Wary, Panic Ploy, Special Spiral, Death Blow 4, and then any special you can name off Bonfire, Aether, Gale Force, etc. I have a lot of different builds on her that I use, and this is the one I am using right now. Okay. So this set is actually kind of strange, but it works in a strange way. If she gets hit, she procs Moonbow instantly. If she gets doubled, well, because of Quick Repo, she gets to proc Moonbow twice. If she's initiating, she hit and then proc Moonbow. So, it works, which is the funny part. And it's kind of hard to really go for a different thing, because at this point the only way to really improve this would be, I guess, running Special Spiral. But then you lose Guard, and you'd need a 3 cooldown special. So like, for example, you could run a Slaying Lance. Yeah, you could run, well, I guess you could just run Slaying Lance with Bonfire. So then with Special Spiral you can always proc Bonfire on player and enemy phase, but at this point I feel like Brave Lance would be better. So yeah, This is a decent set overall. Just wanted to showcase it because it's a bit different from the norm, I suppose. Alright, moving on from my name Jeff, in his attack plus Saizo. He's probably really happy with the refine that he got, considering it's literally this dagger but better. And ironically, Saizo got very blessed in the sense that his dagger is literally an effect I wrote myself. More than a month ago, in fact. I feel like IS is watching my videos because literally 2 of the refines of the batch we've got are refines I wrote myself, actually. The Kagero's second effect refine, I actually wrote this over a year ago. Except the base effect was effectiveness against armored unit. And I actually calced her out at unmerged levels to make sure, because I wanted to make sure that even if she doesn't one-shot an enemy, even if she has to deal with DC, she would have a way to tank it. The effect was to actually lower the damage by 50% against armored units only, because she actually tends to have enough bulk to tank at least one hit from everything but armored unit. So I guess she just got a more global version of this. But of course the base effect is just Swift Sparrow with extra steps, if my memory serves, which is just stupid. That said, Saizo did not get the same refine I actually, wrote myself, but it's literally the refine I gave to Saizo. Not Saizo, Saiz. And how strange is it? I actually put more effort in the icon than they did in the icon of that one. Anyway. With that out of the way, let's talk about this. Do I not have Jeff either? Oh no, there it is. So my first time posting this to here, so here is it. My first +10 and using him to play every mode that comes up since the first gen. Made him to be a physical wall, and he does wonder with my team comps that I usually run with him. Gunsha, Rid, and Ashiden Festival? Oh yeah, that's how they call it. Even though it's Festival in Ashido, they call it Ashiden Summer for whatever reason. So Ashiden Festival's Ryoma. This build is a little AR focused, but I also have Special Spiral, Infantry Pulse, and Infantry Rush on him too. Now, the one thing that strikes me on this unit is the fact that he has a lot of defense. He has a decent chunk of speed. His attack is a bit iffy, but other than that, eh. His res is a problem. So what I would suggest is running Water Sweep, actually. Because Water Sweep will shut down quite a bit of mages. Especially if they're buffed in, if you're able to get a buff in speed on this unit. It actually gives you a free hit for a unit such as, well, Ophelia, for example. They don't get to hit you back, which means you get to keep all of your HP, which means you get to debuff everyone for free. So you actually get that as an option, which is fantastic for Saizo. Your res is your biggest problem, so shutting down the res problem gives you a lot of options. Other than this, Vantage is not bad, but that's also one of the reasons why I feel like Water Sweep will do you better. Vantage is cool and all, but if it's on a tank that already can tank stuff pretty well, debuffing attack by 6, on top of having like a death buff, putting your bulk to overall 53 for defense, Vantage will not really help you in a lot of times. So, and you don't have the attack to actually one-shot stuff with it either. Vantage would be great if you had like a Blade Tome weapon, but you don't really have that. Even with the new pref, even if you refine the new pref, that's not really the case, is it? Still, with his pref, his speed is a lot more consistent, so again, like I said, Water Sweep becomes a lot better. Especially if you have someone that debuffs speed in your team. You know, like Guntra, like Rid. Wink wink. So, yeah. It just feels like a natural fit. Flashing Blade and Aether feels like a decent choice. You do need your bulk after all, and since you have decent bulk and Aether is a good way to heal yourself, that's an option. Another option you could run is instead of Vantage yet again, because that's honestly the weakest link of this set, would be to change that for Mystic Boost. There's so many people who don't understand just how good Mystic Boost is on tanks. And this is a great example of a case that it is. If you just have Mystic Boost like this, you can actually fight for quite a few times, unless you're dealing with mages, and like I said, mages can be more or less shut down with Water Sweep. Because if you have Water Sweep, you debuff them, and if you have the Pref, and you refine the Pref, that's an extra 6 res, and defense. And on top of that, you remove 6 of their attack. And you get 6 more attack yourself, so, you know. This can actually make you fairly bulky overall, and deceptively so. So, yeah, other than that, there's not much to say. This is fairly decent. So, yeah, moving on. This is King Izard's Speed plus HP minus Drog, and he says... Wait, where is it? Oh, there it is. It speaks for itself, though I might change to Attack Plus. Doesn't get double as much as Ardent, so more bulk. I don't know about the more bulk part, it really comes down to the situation, honestly. That said, Moonbow with Special Fighter and Wodao is a fairly decent combo, and because you have a decent chunk of speed, it actually works pretty well. I will say, if you plan on changing this to Attack Plus, honestly don't. If you're going to be doing that, you actually need to be merging him up. If you keep him on low merges, keep Speed Plus, it's definitely better. Hell, I would even say, instead of Initiate Seal Attack 3, I would say Attack Speed 2 might be a better idea. Because the thing is, 38 speed is a bit iffy overall. Now, if you have a speed buff, disregard what I just said. You can just keep the attack overall. As long as you have an attack and speed buff, it should be fine. That way you can just take a hit and one-shot in a lot of cases. At least if they're green. If they're not green, it depends. It depends. And if they're green and their name is Surtur and they're on the death tile, well, that's just life, ain't it? But yeah. I don't understand the odd res wave though. A lot of wave skills I just don't understand. You either have better options or why though? You can just support with res tactic and it does that just better. I don't know. I guess that's just me. I would just go on full into defense and switch from Moonbow to something else. Because what you could do is switch to Slaying Edge, and then, of course my music stopped because YouTube is stupid. Anyway, you could run Slaying Edge with Bonfire, and then run Death Wave if you're going to be running a wave skill, so you then get 22 damage on procs. 22 damage is more consistent than Moonbow will be, because Moonbow 30% to actually give you an extra 22 damage with Wodao would mean 12 damage. That requires the enemy having 40 defense. So I guess Wodao Moonbow can be better in Arena. If it's anything but Arena, it's probably terrible. Like, well, not terrible, but Bonfire does better, is what I mean. So, yeah, I suppose that's pretty decent. Not much else to say. Hope you're going to have fun next week, because he's a bonus unit for whatever reason, and they just decided to remove GHB unit from the rotation completely, so... It's pretty stupid, but, you know. It's IS. They don't tend to do very smart decisions. Moving on to this Res Plus Lucas from Legit Turtle. He says, reposting my submission because I got another merge for him. Here's my mixed bulk Lucas. I run him with def and res tactic support along with attack feint on myself. I hope guard comes out as a seal so I can use that on him, but at this point I just need to plus 10 him. Ideally you also want to be buffing attack, so Titania would be a better partner for him overall. Because then you get def, res tactic, and also attack tactic, since attack tactic can be your C skill. Seth is a bit awkward to use with Lucas because Lucas does not need the speed and Seth gives speed, so... Unless you have a Blade Tome with Seth, it kind of just feels eh. It depends. Like, for a tank like this it doesn't work. For a unit like Tarja it's absolutely amazing though. For a unit like Lind with Blade Tome, hell yeah. You get the idea. So this is more or less a res tank, Lucas. It's 47 res with res tactic, 53 res against Dragon, which is definitely very good. Idun actually whiffs on you at that point, and so does Halloween Myrrh. Halloween Myrrh doesn't even get to have a second hit, though she will shut down Bonfire, but that said, if you have attack tactic, like I just mentioned, you're sitting at 57 attack, that's 68 attack against a red unit. So you're actually fairly decent already. I don't think you'll be able to typically one-round KO a Halloween Myrrh, but you'll get close, is the thing. So, that's pretty good. And the defense is not bad at all either. 54 defense with 47 res is definitely decent, if anything. It just, like I said, it might be a good idea to invest in attack tactic on that team. It really would help your Lucas here. Attack feint is also fantastic. If you actually feint the enemy unit you're going to be tanking, that actually pushes your bulk to 61 defense and 54 res essentially. Which is another reason why I consider feint skills to just be better chills. You actually get to direct where you want them to hit. You just move the unit that needs to tank them in the range, and then you just use a feint skill. Wowzers. I know. What an epic maneuver. It's just overall a lot easier to use. So, yeah, there's not much bad to say here. It's definitely perfect as is, I feel like. It's just... The build itself is fine. It's more like the team composition that becomes a thing that could need work. I would also advise you to have double drive res on someone. Because if you have double drive res, that res will become about the same as the defense. That res gets from 34 to 30... well, from 34 to 40 from buff, 47 from the lance, 53 from double drive res, and then 59 with close defense. At that point, even blue dragons struggle. As a matter of fact, legendary Tiki will more often than not just ting on you. That said, when it comes down to Tiki, she will typically shut down your specials, which actually does hurt you. So, actually that becomes really a problem in general for Lucas. Lucas relies a lot on his special to deal with blues, because a lot of blues in AA have a lot of defense. One thing you can do, when it comes down to those units, is to run Infantry Rush. Now, I know this is a bit strange, but Infantry Rush is the type of skill that would really work here. Like, even if you have a healer, which, by the way, a healer would be a fantastic partner for him. But if you have a healer with Infantry Rush, this way you actually get to get charges through Special Fighter. which actually gives him a fighting chance. Which is great, because that's honestly one of the biggest problems he struggles with, is just specials in general. So that way, if you kill, say, a unit and you're like at 2 charges, or 1 charges, you can actually charge back up through Special Fighter and actually kill a legendary Tiki that way. It gives you more ways to actually get around the problem. Because the problem becomes, the enemy has Special Fighter, she shuts your special down and she gets specials, she procs Aether, your res is fucked. Sayonara. So, you know, even though it takes her 2 specs to kill you, because, you know, it's Lucas. He has the HP for it. Even though it's at that point, it's still worth mentioning. It's definitely worth mentioning that Infantry Rush would be a fantastic support option, and so would double drive res. So, moving on to Bishnir's Walhart, obviously neutral, and he says, "Here is my Mr. Lead or Heat Led. Lead or Heat Led's build." Wow, that's hard for me to say. "As I plan on plus-10ing him with +5 on Dragon Flowers. I'm pretty sure he actually +10 Nesala, so this is a second +10. Attack Res Solo is obviously here to synergize with Wolfberg. His B skill will probably be Guard or maybe Mystic Boost to tank enemy waves easier, as he'll be alone. Attack Smoke to ensure the tanking as well as the Seal proc in some way, which is Heavy Blade. To make Gale Force proc easily and hit twice, or hit and run, on first initiation. I plan to pair him up with Mordecai since he'll be able to debuff the surrounding enemies, as well as buffing Walhart significantly with Attack Deathling as well as Speed and Res Attack Deathling and Speed and Res Tactic." So, this was posted, I think, a few weeks ago, so we did have Cynthia, which Cynthia has one thing going on for her, and one thing only, and that's the fact that she gives Speed Def Tactic, not Speed Def Tactic, Speed Def Link. So the Mordecai combo here that buffs +6 to all stat for Walhart, if you want to do this with a different unit, because I know there was someone else that had a +10 Walhart actually, but had no idea how to go around it. Since I don't really like picking the same character twice, I decided to just take Bishnir because Bishnir has an idea of a set. So for that person, here you go. This is a good idea. And yeah, so one thing I have to say about the Mordecai combo, Speed Def Link is on Cynthia, so you can just slaughter her up. I think she has it as her 4-star. Which gives you the speed and def buff. Then you can use Rest Tactic as a seal and Attack Tactic as your C skill, which is from a 3 to 4-star. So it's a lot less expensive than it used to be. That's honestly the best part about Cynthia as a unit. Well, let's just say I don't expect our review to last the 10-minute mark. I'd be surprised anyway. So, okay. Attack Res Solo is there because with Wolfberg and Res Tactic, as well as Attack Res Solo, you're at 31 res. The defense is definitely the stronger aspect because you are at 54 defense, and as obvious as this is, the fact that Mordecai punches you in the enemy actually pushes the enemy to his 4 to all stat, which actually helps a lot with tanking, and so does Attack Smoke. Now, you've pointed out Mystic Boost and Guard. I would say ditch Guard and go Mystic Boost. Mystic Boost is the best part about this, because the main problem Walhart will be is having no source of sustain. It's not so much the fact that he gets to hit and then has to come back, as the fact that his res is terrible. Since his res is so terrible, he's going to take damage a lot if he has to deal with anything that's a dragon. So, the fact is, if you have, if you can have Mystic Boost, this is easily the best case scenario in that case. It won't really struggle with special fighter all that much. The only unit that he's really going to struggle with when it comes down to special fighter is going to be Alwyn Mur, because Alwyn Mur runs this with her weapon and quick riposte as a seal, which allows her to double in every phase as long as she has enough defense. But that's kind of it. And I guess also to some extent Idun. But that's really it. If you take these out of the equation, yeah, no, I think you're going to be fine. It's just, like I said, constant battle, Mystic Boost is better. Another thing that makes Mystic Boost better is if you run Desperation for it, it doesn't work. Because then you get only 4 charge out of 5. So if you're fresh out of a Gale Force because you had to run, you don't get to actually do anything with it. You don't get to proc Gale Force. And that really hurts the Gale Force strat. Mystic Boost ensures that you're going to be taking a hit between attack unless it's a mage. So it actually makes Gale Force a lot more consistent. In that case, you can just attack a melee unit, kill it, and then kill a mage afterward. So, yeah, it's definitely a lot better for Walhart. I've been using Walhart a lot in Grand Conquest because I tend to always use horses in this. Because why the fuck bother using armored unit? Why would you bother using anything? You should always be using cav units. It makes it so much easier and so much less aids. Seriously, it's just the best way to go about it. So, yeah. The main problem Walhart had is that yes, he was bulky, yes, he was struggling to die, yes, he was hardly ever dying, but he was getting to a point where if his HP was too low, he was becoming useless. Or he was doing damage one time and that's it. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Rid does not have that problem and does not need Mystic Boost because, first off, he needs the debuff to actually work properly, so his B skill is better. But two, and the most important part, well, he has good res. Walhart does not have good res. Like, Rid hits like the 30 res at high merges without res plus. That gives you an idea. So, yeah. Walhart is obviously fairly decent here. Mystic Boost is definitely the best way to go about it. Attack res solo is a bit awkward sometimes though. I would say you might want to get attack speed solo also, because the thing with attack speed solo is it makes it a lot more consistent for you to double. As is, you're hitting only 41 speed, which can be a bit iffy in some cases. So attack speed solo might be better. It's the kind of thing that you'll be switching from one to the other. If you have Mystic Boost, attack res solo becomes a lot less important. It still becomes fairly important, but it's worth mentioning that, well, you know, first off, it cuts a few doubles from happening, and two, well, it makes it easier for you to double, and therefore it makes Gale Force more consistent. So attack res solo becomes a lot less important than attack speed solo, which is funny considering Yarne, or whatever his shit name is on a banner, so you have attack speed solo there. I don't remember all of the people of the Awakening banner. I'm sorry. Awakening's character cast is so fucking bland and boring. Outside of Bratty, none of them look interesting to me character-wise. Unit-wise, it's a different story. But that's going to be on the review banner, so... Alright, time to move on. This is Ishi's Speed plus Fjorm, and she says... God damn it, where is it? My battle-ready Fjorm. Once I get the remaining 2 flowers, she'll be in the Club 40 Ooh. Speed boon because I don't want her to get doubled as much. And I believe she also left a comment about how she didn't understand why Fjorm is not considered good. Here's why. It's because you need her to be at plus 10 to really work properly. Because otherwise, she's a jack of all trades, right? Jack of all trades are a weird type of unit. The best way I can really put it is that Jacks of all trades are terrible at low merges, but a lot better on high merges. For example, female Grima on low merges is like A tier at best, maybe A+. That gives you an idea, right? However, at plus 10, if you consider her at plus 10 versus other plus 10, and before I was considering 0 to 0, she's more like S-. That gives you an idea. It's very strange to rank on a tier list Jack of all trades, because they don't feel nearly as good until you get them to plus 10. Like, a lot of people... I have a section in my Discord called Jay's Unit. Okay? And in Jay's unit, I've put my Guntra, because my Guntra is now plus 10. Which should be obvious, because you probably have seen the 7th session. It's going to probably hit the 1,000 views. I would not be surprised whatsoever. It is a summon video, after all. But... a lot of people have seen my Guntra and went just like, how the fuck is this real? Guntra is also kind of that way. New Year Guntra, of course. She's also the type of unit that is very... just all around good, but also... the thing is, Guntra has 34 attack and 37 speed. So, obviously, that's a lot better on low merges. Because Fjorm is sitting at, I believe, 30 attack and 32 speed. Which has like 4 less attack and 5 less speed. So Guntra has basically just 4 points of def res moved into attack and speed. Which makes it a lot more easy for her to shine, right? But she is still a jack of all trades to some extent. So when I show her, people don't understand those numbers. Because the thing is, my Guntra, on her stat page, her lowest stat is 47. 47! I'm counting buff, of course, but 51 HP, 57 attack, 47 speed, 47 def, 49 res. But here's the kicker. She uses Heart's Blade. Heart's Blade gives a 3 across the board and a 2 across the board, because she's always next to Tiki. So, really, our lowest stat becomes HP at 51, and then it's 52 onward. Like, it's ridiculous. This is the power of a jack of all trade. All of her stats becomes amazing on high merges. But on low merges, you don't expect Guntra's def and res to be all that great. Right? It's the same kind of logic here. So Fjorm is the same kind of archetype, but it's even more pronounced. Because all of her stats are basically equal. So, you know. Now, as for the build itself... oh boy. First off, no C Disrupt probably would be a better idea. Because that way you could deal with Fjorm to some extent. Though it will probably require you a speed buff, like a +6 speed buff, and then a few drive speed users. Because that's kind of the problem. Fjorm speed, even at +10, not great, not great. Still, it's usable. So no C Disrupt might be good for that. Other than that, I would also say and argue that her attack is the main issue. Like, that's her main problem right now. 50 attack is terrible. Even in Brazen with 57, that's still terrible. So what I would do is this. Okay? Replace the weapon back to Leptir. The thing is, that's 2 more attack. Yes, you lose 5 HP. Yes, you lose 4 defense. However, while you do lose 4 defense, while you do lose 5 HP, Vanguard is... how can I put it? Not really helping her case. I get that it's meant to combo into Brazen Attack Res, so she has 47 Def and Res on enemy phase. But the fact of the matter is... and there's no Heart's Blade in Lances, which is unfortunate because that's one of the best thing for those kinds of unit. Just an extra 3 across the board since all of their stats are good, right? But since you don't have that, Leptir is better in the sense that you can actually well, yeah, you'll have less defense, but you'll have DC and 2 more attack. And your A slot actually gets freed up. Now, the main thing that makes this a lot better is, well, if you run Brazen Attack Def as the A skill. Suddenly your attack skyrockets and goes from 50 to 64 and would buff to 70. 70 attack is a lot better. Or you could even run Brazen Attack Speed. Brazen Attack Speed would also push your speed up and allow you to double a lot more consistently, which makes null follow-up a lot better overall. Your def still takes a hit of 4 compared to this set. However, it also gives you one advantage, and it's the fact that you actually have a player phase. Vanguard is enemy phase exclusive, and if you're only going to be tanking, you're only using off of a unit here, because she's meant to be a multi-phased unit. That's also why Guntra is working the way I'm using her. I'm using her with, bond skills, but it's because I'm using aerobatics with her. Aerobatics is a skill that forces you to still be next to someone after you move, which makes Heart's Blade and Attack Def Bond and also ally support a lot better to combo into. Here, you don't get to be able to use stuff like aerobatics, so the best thing you can do instead would be to stack Brazens. Our stat line is very similar to my Ira, minus the speed, and that's how I use my Ira. I use Brazen Attack Def and Brazen Attack Res, because at that point, I can just face tank proc Regnalastra, and then suddenly, I'm in Wrath range. I'm in double Brazen range. I have a fuck ton of attack, and my Regnalastra recharges itself in one go. You don't get to use this because you don't use Wrath, but it's still a decent option. If you want her to be more aggressive, you can definitely use Lepter with Brazen Attack Def, Brazen Attack Res, and Wrath. That way, you actually get a good chunk of damage, and hell, if what you need is a lot of damage, you can just run Bonfire. Bonfire is going to still do like 23 damage on procs. That's good. That's really good. It might require you to run away a little, or just, one extra turn so you can just take a hit and proc it immediately, but it will absolutely nuke quite a bit of units. Also, something you could do is just run Brazen Attack Speed Seal and Brazen Def Res as your A skill. That's a good idea. Or, if you feel like that's a bit more consistent for you, as you're using Lepter, Fortress Def Res. Your attack will still be at 50, however, and also I just realized the numbers were wrong when I said it was 64 attack. It's 66. I keep forgetting the 2 attack of Lepter. But, the point is, with Fortress Def Res, you'd have Def and Res, obviously. That's kind of part of the bargain. You could also run Brazen Attack Def as the seal skill if you feel your Def is not up to par. And it just makes it easier for you to hit Brazen Wrath. So Fortress Def Res might be better in that regard. Otherwise, double Brazen is definitely a fantastic option that should definitely be considered at least. This set is decent overall though. It's just a bit awkward that one of them requires you to be at 75% HP and the other one is locked to enemy phase. Brazen is meant to be more on multi-phase unit and Vanguard is meant to be on enemy phase exclusive units. So it's definitely an awkward pick overall. But yeah. Other than that, I don't have much else to say. If you really don't want, if you really want to keep the 5 HP and 4 defense, Slaying Lance is probably a good option as well. Because the thing with Slaying Lance is that, well, it's a slaying effect. Cooldown -1, you can't actually have that on any other slots. And you actually get to keep the def and HP out of it. It's also multi-phased. So if you run something like Wrath, and then run something with Bonfire, for example, hey, guess what? It's more damage. Because then Wrath gives you one charge, you tank it on the enemy face and you proc it, or you can just back off for an extra turn and then hit it immediately on an initiation. Which is fantastic. It's a lot easier to actually work with than Leptir when it comes down to specials and Wrath. So definitely worth mentioning. So yeah, enough of this. Moving on to Spinal Spirals Halloween Henry, which is attack plus. Okay, so where's my archives? Where is it? 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 Did I not save this as well? God damn it, am I retarded? Probably. Yep, I'm retarded. God damn it. Alright, there we go. Okay, sharing my pride and joy. My Halloween Henry has been my summoner support ever since I gave him Vengeful Fighter from my first Grima. He's an absolute monster and can tank most hits when in the T formation, in the center of my team with 3 ward armors and S support with Black Knight, as well as a spur from LA Hector's Steel Slot. He's tanked a lot of crazy hits, and I haven't found any GHB or LHB where I have to change anything. I don't have any sacrifice to give him Special Fighter because I'm free to play, so Vengeful is staying. The fact that you're free to play should not shut down any chance you have of getting Special Fighter. Hell, if anything, I would have just, you know, spent those over on that Eurofest with Brave Ephraim. And there you go, that would have made him a lot better. Special Fighter is definitely the way to go when it comes down to it, but, you know. Moving on, this set is definitely very easy to really guess how the fuck it works, so, you know. It's definitely a decent set overall, and I'd say Halloween Henry is ironically the mage armored unit that actually holds up the best out of the 3. Christmas Star should just get absolutely demolished by most units that can have a hunts of speed so they can actually double her, so that's always a good sign, right? She can use Blade Tome, so can Henry, but Henry actually has a speed stat, so, you know, doesn't have to rely on Bullfighter. The only unit that's kind of close is LA Lin, but blue is a lot worse of a color when it comes down to an armored unit, I feel like. Especially an armored mage unit. It's just... in a world where Reinhardt, Ophelia, and a bunch of other easily available units exist, why the fuck would you spend on LA Lin, right? Henry has Nino as competition, and that's kind of it. And Nino cannot pull off the kind of shit Henry can, so... and is not nearly powerful enough to the point where Nino just completely just shits on Henry, I guess would be the best way to put it. So, yeah. Other than that, there's really not much to say here. Overall, it's a very solid set. Oh, and if you do decide to give Special Fighter at one point, please, for the love of God, switch to Glacies. Other than that, let's move on. This is Blitz New Year Corrin, obviously neutral. And he says... Did I fuck that up again? Oh my god. I hate myself. Oh no, I didn't. I'm not retarded, I swear. I know it's not often a speedy New Year Corrin build, New Year male Corrin is build, but here's my build. I mean, That's kind of the way you're supposed to go about it. I'm just going to be honest here. That's the best way you go about New Year Corrin. Except you want him to have no follow-up. But that's just me. With New Year Corrin's mediocre space speed, it's not mediocre, it's very workable. Any unit with like 30 plus speed is very workable speed-wise. I went with this set that can score him a speed stat of 43 and attack of 55. However, this isn't just a player phase build, as it is respectable 35 defense, help him tank physical hits. 19 rest is low admittedly, but that's where speed feint comes in, as he comes with a rally speed feint seemed logical with the speed team of this build. This combo had stopped fast mages from killing him in one round. I honestly feel if you're going to be going for speed like this, well, first off, double attack speed bond is probably better than Swiss Pharaoh, since you'll mostly be using him on enemy phase. Second, no follow-up is probably the way to go again. And third, you might want to have a partner that has attack feint, not speed feint. Because then you're at, well, even right now, if you have attack speed bond and a 6 buff in speed from double rally plus or speed tactic or anything of the sort, you're already at 45 speed. No follow-up becomes a lot better than speed feint as a result. Just saying. Now, for attack speed bond and Swiss Pharaoh, they don't really synergize well whatsoever. Swiss Pharaoh actually makes you go on the offense, which is really awkward to have a unit near you as you go for the attack. It can happen, it definitely can, but it's awkward. So having having attack speed bond when you're nowhere near your ally all the time is not ideal, and neither would attack speed solo because sometimes you're near people. It's fucking awkward. It's just really awkward. Attack speed bond is definitely one of the most awkward of the bond skills. That said, if you're going to go with that kind of set, I would definitely say attack speed bond times 2 would be the ideal way to go. Because that way you'd actually have no follow-up. No follow-up would basically be able to shut down quite a few units pretty easily. Especially if you get him to plus 10. At plus 10 with... Yeah, okay, at plus 10 you have 3 more speed, so 37 speed. Yeah, you hit 42 speed with attack speed bond once, and then 48 with a buff in speed, which is almost at the point where I'd say that's way too much. And on top of it, you could run close counter. Then again, you probably have seen my set. If you haven't, I just suggest you to refer to the Tempestrow/GHB tier list episode 1, which is where I covered him, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah. This build is okay though. It's just attack speed bond will not be working too well. I guess a good option if you really want to stick with what you have right now would be darting blow. Because that way your speed is still up. Your attack is going to be iffy as fuck though, which is a problem. But it's kind of hard to do anything else at that point, is it? So, yeah. Yeah. Let's move on. This is Tactician's Magician's Robin, and it's attack plus, obviously. And he says... Not a speed Grima build this time, lol. Attack plus as it works for most build. I have a speed plus copy to switch to if necessary. Idea here is for Robin to be a Swiss Army knife type character. Chuck him in any mixed team and he'll grant full buffs with just the weapon and be good against 2 colors at once. I realize that with his stats he's not as good at being solely offense or defense. As some other F2P characters, but as a mixed phase, he's pretty unique. Given his balanced stat spread, this is why I chose Fury as a buff all 4 stat, which stacks well with summoner support and merges. It's a fairly cheap build too. I often switch out QR for renewal or breaker skills. Any advice on what I can do with this type of Robin build? Okay, so my first thing is, you did say that you had a Speed Plus version. Go for that. Go for that, because the thing is, you will not be running Speed Buff with him. So you won't be buffed in Speed, typically. Because he already is the one that provides all the buffs, right? So it's really hard for him to get any kind of buff. Now, if you had one of the unit on the team with Rally Attack Speed Plus, or Speed Def Plus, I guess that actually would make up for it. But if you don't have something like that, Speed Plus will definitely, hands down, be a better choice. It also opens up your seal slot overall, which, you know, that's fairly helpful. Even with Speed Plus, I'd say having a base rally like Rally Speed Res might be a good idea for him. It's not fantastic, but it's an option. And actually pushes his speed to 45 for both phase, which completely eliminates the fact that you have Quick Repose. It makes Quick Repose completely obsolete. To a point where instead of Run a Wall, you could run Mystic Boost. Yeah. And then Fury makes you lose nothing anymore. So you become a lot better as a tank, because a tank unit that keeps getting hit by Fury probably won't be able to live too long on long-term maps. So because you don't have Darting Blow and Quick Riposte anymore open, it actually opens up for your Seal and B skill to change. Like I said, Mystic Boost is a good option for your B skill. Renewal is also a decent option if you want a more cheap-friendly version of the skill. Other than this, maybe Renewal again in the Seal slot if you feel like that would make you a lot more consistent at staying at full health. That way you have a way to sustain yourself. Other than that, not really much. Since you already have Fury and Mystic Boost, and if you have Mystic Boost, I would say maybe run a Brazen, because you're not healing your HP back up, because you have Fury. So, if you're at 75%, a Brazen becomes actually really good. And at that point, if you're using Mystic Boost with Fury like this, Brazen attack speed with an attack plus build would be actually a fairly decent option. It would be a really decent option because that way you'd actually get your speed, you'd get a more attack, which Robin always needs, let's be honest. And also, synergize fairly well with the set. If you run Renewal, do not run Brazens. It's not going to help you. Other than that, I don't have much else to say. So, let's move on. I believe it's the last unit of this set. Mr. Bomi's Loki. So, he says, this is the original post and reposted with fully buffed picture and different colored heart for validity. That was still back when I did not ask for people to click on their pictures, so, you know. Here's my progress on my offensive Spring Loki. I'm using her on both flyer and mixed environments. Got her attack speed solo from a fallen Corrin to replace life and death, but I'd probably give her Fury 4 if I ever get the fodder for it. Got her even attack wave of a fallen Delphia, but replaced it with Distant Guard or a goad on flyers, as I've got people running own flyers. Either way, top 57 attack, which not many people survive being quadded by. Attack plus 3 has been simple but effective option, but might consider Heavy Blade on flyers. Had attack speed 2, but after the fort merge she was stopping 49 speed, which is already overkill. There we go. As usual, any and all feedback is welcome. PD, I did follow your advice on the previous video and got a guard bow build, Distant Def 4, and it all has been very effective. Well, I'm glad to hear. So, solo skills in general are awkward on flyers. Also, ideally, instead of attack plus 3, you could run attack def 2, since our def is the lowest of the two, and defense is typically one of the biggest problems you're going to have, because most unit runs DC nowadays, dragons hit your defense, so having an extra point here, actually not bad. Now, the reason why I say solo skills are a bit awkward is because you'll typically be using her in a flyer team. If you use her in a flyer team, attack speed bond might actually be better, because then you can use flyer formation. Now, flyer formation is a fairly easy skill to understand. It just allows you to teleport to people within 2 space that are flyers. The reason why that's important is because then you're next to someone. So solo skills don't work. However, bond skills do. And also, gold flyers exist. Now, gold flyers is a fantastic skill in general, and while it's at a point where even if you don't have even an A skill really working, if you have golds around around Loki, she's going to do just fine. If you have a unit like Camilla on the team with gold, that's 7 attack, 7 speed right there, without own flyer even considered. So let's put it that way. You have attack speed bond, and you're with Camilla, you're buff with own flyers, you teleport to her to brave bow something down, and suddenly you're at 63 attack with a brave bow. Quite a huge increase, isn't it? It also means that any speed that you would get from a solo skills is actually kind of pointless. So at that point, it might be better to just run attack res bond and attack def bond as the seal. That way you actually improve your bulk, because you don't have desperation with that set. You improve your bulk, so you have like 41 def, 42 res. And on top of it, your attack becomes absolutely monstrous. It pushes your 51 to 61 just with the bonds alone. But then if you have like Camilla with gold, that 61 jumps up to 68. 68 attack with a brave bow absolutely destroys most of the things that it comes into contact with. So yeah. That's actually very, very good for Loki overall. As for even attack wave, I don't know how to feel about this. Most teams you'll be on, just overall, will be awkward. Just because wave skills in general are not fantastic. Since they only work all the time, it's a bit awkward to use. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, no, other than that, I don't think there's much else to say. If you do go with the idea that I gave you with flyer formation, attack def bond, attack res bond, I would definitely suggest maybe decide to run Iceberg, because that's already 21 damage. So unless you're fighting someone with 42 def or more, you're actually doing more damage with Iceberg. So, yeah. Don't think there's anything else to say, so hey, we're done. This show me your build is a lot bigger than usual. Reason being, I kind of felt bad for just not working on the video immediately, so I kind of just said fuck it, punishment will be 4x per build. But yeah, other than that, I really don't have anything else to say. As per usual, thank you for watching, and yeah, just keep in mind I'm going to be changing how I'm going to be doing this next month. I just want to actually have a way to do this that does not make me want to just never touch it. I don't know, it's just most videos I get to actually pull up on stream and work toward, right? I can't do that with Show Me Your Build because that would just completely spoil who I pick. So I want it to be live as a result, because that makes it so much easier for me to work on it. But yeah, With that said, I'm going to see you on Discord or in the comments. Have a nice one, everyone. See ya.